patients were also tested by the almost unbearable heat of Robocop's location shoot.
We were shooting in Dallas, and it was probably close to 100 degrees.
I'm from Texas, but I ain't ever been dressed up in rubber and plastic. Subsequently, there were two cats standing around with industrial-sized air conditioning ducts that would just whip those on me. I could move for about 5 minutes at a go without hyperventilating.
If Peter was a little cranky during filming, I'll give him a break, because it just looked hot and awful. And it's not like you could, okay, that's lunch, 1 hour, take it off. You're in that thing.
He would sweat buckets. This guy lost 3 to 4 pounds a day, but Peter was dedicated.
Action! Go!
OCP spokesman claimed that the fearless machine has crooks on the run in Old Detroit.
As Paul Verhoeven found a rhythm with his collaborators, he passionately put his own personal stamp on the film. For Robocop's flashbacks, the director drew on intense childhood memories.
This kind of feeling, what you would call lost paradise, that I felt was a metaphor for his former life. That intrigued me. That is something that I have always felt. I can nearly cry about the loss of the past.
Dad!
So that was basically my emotional connection with the movie.
Come on, Dad, the picture!
His memory of his family, his memory of his partner, his memory of a previous life, in a way saves him from becoming a machine.
I really have to tell you something. I love you.
That character was not a cartoon. It was a real, live human being, and he really made sure that that was not lost.
It's really good to see you again, Murphy.
Murphy had a wife and son. What happened to them?
Well, after the funeral, she moved away. She thought you were dead. She started over again.
I can feel them. But I can't remember them.
Meanwhile, intense emotions were also being expressed behind the camera, between Verhoeven and his admiring but anxious producers.
There wasn't enough money, and a lot of people were at war, and everybody was just trying to survive.
And back it out!
There were big, explosive, screaming fights every single day. Paul, I remember him saying at one point, "It's a conspiracy. It's a conspiracy. Don't think I don't know what you're doing, isn't it?" You know. So I think he felt the weight of the world on his shoulders.
We really moved like gangbusters. So anything that slowed him up was really just sabotage, you know?
The movie was too damn complicated for some of the budget that we had. The gas station scene. There was this huge explosion. A giant fireball set on fire the surrounding buildings and the surrounding trees and the neighborhood, you know, was just like on fire. And everybody's panicking and the fire department is rushing there. And Yost Vacano goes over to Paul and says, "Well, I don't think that explosion is big enough to read on film. We have to redo it." Well, at this point, I mean, we're already quite behind. And so I said, guys, let's look at the film before we decide that we're going to reshoot this, which was a good thing because they weren't going to give us a permit to even go into that part of town anymore.
Who are you? Who are you?
Come in, officer. You know I don't usually see anyone without an appointment, but in your case, I'll make an exception.
You are under arrest.
Oh? On what charge?
Aiding and abetting a known felon.
By the spring of 1987, Robocop had finally taken cinematic shape as Paul Verhoeven excitedly completed his director's cut.
I had to kill Bob Morton because he made a mistake. Now it's time to erase that mistake.
But now, Verhoeven's metallic hero was about to face a fearsome opponent that even he could not defeat. the Motion Picture Association of America, which determined movie ratings.
Robocop got an X 11 times at the MPAA. They finally refused to even watch the film anymore.
Verhoeven had filled Robocop with an unprecedented level of explicit violence, pushing the envelope for an escapist science fiction film. It was a vision rooted in Verhoeven's own childhood during Nazi-occupied Holland.
People are violent. They like violence. I'm violent myself. So I'm not better than the others. I mean, we're all part of this human species. Yeah, there are some good people that would never do violence. Majority would.
Mr. Kinney is going to help us simulate a typical arrest and disarming procedure. Mr. Kinney, use your gun in a threatening manner.
Please put down your weapon. You have 20 seconds to comply.
I think you'd better do what he says, Mr. Kinney.
A lot of the violence was funny. The Ed 209 killing the executive.
His whole body's blown up for a pretty long time, 10, 15, 20 seconds or something like that. The first thing somebody says,
Sure, it's only a glitch.
the glitch, isn't it? The absurdity of that was much stronger in the director's cut than in the release cut.
Mark, I'm authorized to use deadly force now.
I fought them. I tried everything to do it my way. But of course, I mean, they have the power. And in my contract, it said R, need the R rating.
And interestingly enough, the more the violence was cut back, the more violent it became, as far as I was concerned. Paul wants to show everything. And as we cut it back, it was a little bit like a nude in Playboy. As you cover a little bit more up, it becomes more erotic.
Stop! I'll give you anything you want. Please, please don't kill me, all right?
When the motion picture rating people had them cut it back, it was horrible. It was horrific.
Now I gotcha!
Whereas if you just let him do what he wanted to, it was completely over the top and cartoonish.
With an R rating finally secured, Verhoeven now anxiously awaited his next and final verdict, the opinion of moviegoers and critics, as Robocop opened nationwide on July 17, 1987.
That whole, let's say, enormous weight that was suddenly put on my shoulders, that I had to deal with, not knowing really too much about it, was for me nearly insupportable.
But I remember the first time I saw a movie trailer for it. Everyone in the theater booed and laughed. Really strange. It's like, no, you guys, you don't understand. Just wait.
It is my great pleasure to present to you Robocop.
And we went down to the Bruin Theater where it was playing. At the very end of the movie, the audience did something that I'd never seen in any of the test screenings or anything. They roared. They just roared.
Come on.
It was the biggest rush I have ever had.
Surprised critics hailed Paul Verhoeven as a major new voice in American movies. And after Robocop's box office triumph, Verhoeven scored a personal victory when his original director's cut was released on video.
It was, I think, very innovative. It was an action movie, but it had humor. It was an action movie, but it had a soul.
That character's the everyman, Phoenix rising from the ashes. No one's going to take his life from him. No one's going to take his soul from him. You can do all this, but you can't take my soul.
I'm a mess.
They'll fix you. They fix everything. The story of resurrection is eternal, and that is the great story to tell all the time, over and over and over again.
Nice shooting, son. What's your name?
Murphy.